Welcome into another edition of On the Record. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman, as we get set to preview another upcoming series here for the Arizona Diamondbacks, as the Diamondbacks are in Cincinnati, taking on the Reds for the first time this season, a Tuesday through Thursday series out in Cincinnati. And joining me today to help preview this series and shed some light on what's going on with the Reds early in the season is Trent Rosecrans, who covers the Reds for The Athletic, along with Major League Baseball as a whole. Trent, we really appreciate the time today. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
So, Trent, I was looking through some of your stories yesterday, and I'm not sure if this is your most recent one or it's at least one of the more recent ones you've written. The first line is the Cincinnati Reds offense stinks, which was sort of a surprise to me coming in. I figured that would be a strength of this team, that the pitching had more questions than anything else. What's going on with the Reds offense right now?
Well, nothing. That's the problem. I mean, Elly De La Cruz is hitting, and that's about it. You know, if you look at, they have a couple guys who are at least, Jake Fraley, Spencer Steer, Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India are doing some positive things, but getting on base, that kind of thing. But this team has the lowest batting average in baseball, which is bad when you are in the same organization of leagues, since there are two leagues, as the Chicago White Sox. It's bad to be with the White Sox with anything, and that's where the Reds are right now in, many offensive categories.
The Reds over the offseason, one of the more puzzling moves they made in my mind was acquiring Jeimer Candelario. It seemed like they had plenty of infield depth as it was. I guess you can never have too much in some ways, but he hasn't really hit so far. 190, 274, 360 is a slash line to start the year. What have you seen from him, and did that move make sense to you when it first happened?
No, I still was trying to figure it out. He just hasn't hit. But it ended up being kind of useful. You can. They lost Matt McLean, shortstop, second baseman, who suffered a shoulder injury and at best will be back sometime in August. They lost Noelvi Marte for an 80-game suspension. They lost some guys, and that really caused them to put a stress on that infield depth. And they were lucky to have Candelario at that point. So that has been an issue, and he just hasn't hit, and that's a 3-year deal.
Yeah,
we're a year and 5/8 in or something like that. I don't know my exact fractions here, but we're not very far into that deal, and he has not hit well. He was scratched from the lineup on Sunday with a contusion on his shin after fouling the ball off his leg. Talked to him afterwards, said he should be okay, but they expect a lot more production than what they've gotten.
Do you feel like I know a lot of this offensive core is pretty young, and sometimes young players they show some positive signs and then they kind of take some steps back before they start moving forward again. Is that kind of what your sense of the situation is with guys like Will Benson, Christian Encarnacion, Strand, who just haven't really hit so far to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, those are still very young players without a whole lot of experience. So that is an issue. You hope that they are more of what we saw at the end of last year than what we were seeing at the beginning of this year, and time will tell.
As far as the starting pitching is concerned, I guess it's been pretty decent by and large. It certainly looks like it in this series with the Diamondbacks and the Reds. We have Zach Gallen against Frankie Montas. Montas coming off the IL, making that start tonight. Then we have Jordan Montgomery against Graham Ashcraft in Game 2, Slade Ciccone and Hunter Greene in Game 3. Can you just kind of run through those three Reds starters and what stands out about each of them here early in the season?
Yeah, Frankie Montas is another one of the signings they made. It's a 1-year deal. He has been pretty much what they had hoped he would be. He's been a solid starter for them. When he started opening day and looked great. He was out just coming off the IL today after getting hit with a comebacker on his arm, which he was actually really lucky not to have a fracture. We were looking at it, and you could see a huge bump on his arm. So that's good. Graham Ashcraft is a guy who throws hard. He can have that cutter slider or cutter sinker mix both at 100 that can be very challenging for hitters. And then we know at Hunter Greene, we were trying to see that maturation process, and we're continuing to see him mature as a pitcher, and really kind of try to go deeper into games. And when he can do that, when he can get those secondary pitches over, he can be really, really good.
What's been the key for Greene in particular? It seems like the last couple years there've been ERAs in the mid fours, and yet you see him throwing around 100 miles an hour. He's been a guy that a lot of people have had high hopes for a while. What's allowed him to kind of take this next step?
I think consistency and just knowing when to pitch and when to use the 100, and then getting ahead in counts. It's as simple as that. It's not that difficult, it's not that difficult of a strategy. Following through with it is a little tougher, but throwing strikes and getting ahead. I mean, that's really it. When he does that, he can be really, really good. When he is pitching from behind, and which is he has done a lot when he has struggled, it's been a lot tougher.
As far as this, I guess the defense is something I'm curious about. The defensive metrics for the Reds are not particularly good. I don't believe they were particularly good last year. Is this just a pretty poor defensive team, and that's just kind of the way it is at this point?
I think there were hopes that with Marte and McLean, this was a much better defensive infield, especially, and that's where they have struggled. Elly De La Cruz is a young shortstop. He makes some unbelievable plays that nobody else makes, and then he has a couple where, you just wonder what he's thinking. But he is a guy that's gonna get through that, just because so many of those plays he was able to make at a lower level, and the big leagues it's different. You don't get away with as much because everybody is so much better, and he's finding it. I have zero worries about him as a defender. I think he's going to be above average at shortstop and do things that you've never seen before, both at that position and at the plate. And so, I mean, he's worth the price of admittance. You have him and Corbin Carroll in the same ballpark is pretty exciting.
Things have really flipped as far as those two are concerned. Obviously, it's still very, very early in the season, but last year, Corbin Carroll, of course, winning the Rookie of the Year, finishing 5th in MVP voting. Elly De La Cruz, of course, did some incredible things. There were some remarkable moments along the way, but his numbers were not particularly good. Does it feel like Elly is just sort of turned a corner here, and he's going to be a top 5 MVP guy potentially for the foreseeable future? I guess we maybe have to see a little bit more before we get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it is 34 games into the season, so
right.
I'm not going to go exactly there yet. But again, the way you see, I can be surprised by nothing that Elly De La Cruz does on the field. I mean, if he just took out and started flying, I wouldn't be that surprised, because Elly does things at all times that are just mind-boggling, because he is just a different type of specimen.
The swing and miss was kind of the biggest concern coming into the league for him, it seems like. And as far as I can tell, I don't have it in front of me, I think his strikeout rate is still maybe a little bit over 30%. It's not particularly low. Is he just at the point where he makes so much hard contact that he can he's one of the few hitters maybe who can get away with striking out near the top of the league while still being an elite hitter at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be swing and miss in his swings. Swings, I say plural because he is a switch hitter. I mean, but he has a 377 on base right now, which is,
wow.
With when you have that kind of speed, it's kind of scary. There are pitchers, I think, who would rather give up a solo homer than face somebody with Elly on base, just because of what he can do once he's on base. I mean, if you walk him, it's almost a triple. Just the way that he goes. He will strike out, and he's got 45 strikeouts right now in 34 games. So there are always going to be a lot.
Yeah.
But he is also tied for the team lead in walks, and that's not something that he's done much coming up, and he's really focused on that. So I think there have been a lot better swing decisions, but he's going to swing through some things, but he's also going to make contact with things. And the other part of that is he can do that with hard contact. He can also do it with soft contact because, again,
Yeah.
he's maybe the fastest guy in the game, hits the ball harder than anybody and throws the ball harder than anybody and runs faster than anybody, which is a good combination.
Last thing here for you, Trent. Reds are a couple games under 500. Maybe not a great start, but far from catastrophic given where we are in the season. Are Reds sort of okay with what's happened so far? Are there big concerns about this team not taking the step forward that they were maybe expected to take? What do you think fans are thinking right now about this team?
Well, are we asking fans or front office? Because those are two different things. The fans are all up on the bridge, ready to jump.
Okay.
The front office, not as much. Although today they did activate TJ Friedel from his rehab assignment a little earlier than we expected.
Interesting.
That was going to be up to TJ, and then called up Connor Capel, who's a veteran, or not really a veteran, but a guy who's been in the big leagues before. This was kind of. But Capel goes to the bottom of the bench where Nick Martini, who had gotten a lot of time as a DH, more than probably they had planned. He's really seen as a pinch hitter, and Bubba Thompson went down as well. Bubba Thompson being another very fast man who was a pinch runner. I mean, he's one of the fastest people in the game. He's one of the few that you go that legitimately, when you ask him if he can beat Elly, he doesn't automatically dismiss it. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive because you have other really, really fast guys like Stuart Fairchild, who just like, oh yeah, no, I got no shot. Bubba does. Bubba has a shot. They have a kid in the minor leagues named Blake Dunn who might have a shot too, which is saying something. But none of that it matters if you're not on base.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Trent, we really appreciate the time today. Thanks again for doing this, and we'll see what happens here over the next few days.
All right, thank you.